penultimate episode of the series, we're celebrating the Baroque guitar, a beautiful little instrument with a wealth of repertoire to draw upon. I'm joined by Carlos Labao Gadelha, who's a first year studying at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. He's a viol player as well as a Baroque guitarist, and he's sharing with us 3 short pieces, 2 of which can be found in a French manuscript called Livre di Guitare, published in 1671, and contains works by Antoine Carré. In our last episode, I talked about the 4-course guitar and the first known source for music for this instrument, which was found in Tres Libros de Música, a little book by Alonso Modara, published in 1546. The next significant publication after Tres Libros comes 8 years later by a composer called Miguel Fuenllana, who in 1554 published a book called Orfenica Lira, which was mainly composed of music for the vihuela, but had a little section in it of pieces that were for the vihuela de 5 órdenes, which is thought to be a 5-course guitar. This instrument became known as the Guitarra Española, and its roots were firmly planted in Spain, although Italy and France played quite a big role in the development of its musical style. Musicians travelled, they exchanged ideas, composers reacted to evolving musical development, and some of the later repertoire for this instrument tends to be a fusion of Spanish, French, Italian styles mixed together. A few years ago, I went to the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. They house a fantastic instrument collection there, and you can go and see original viols, violins, citerns and keyboards, and they also have a small collection of Baroque guitars. And as you can see from these photographs, which I couldn't resist taking, the beautiful workmanship in these instruments and the elaborate decorations. So after Tres Libros and Orfenica Lira, the next significant publication that gives us an insight into the development of the 5-course guitar comes in the form of a little book called Guitarra Española, and this was published by Juan Carlos Amat. And it's a very interesting little book because it's a little guide as to how to strum chords on the guitar. And it's not so dissimilar from our modern guitar chord books. It's got little chord charts, tells you rhythmical ideas, and it's a great little instruction. It was so popular, in fact, it was printed right up until the 1800s. After this publication, there came a flowering of instruction books and music books for this beautiful 5-course instrument. This is my Baroque guitar, a little less decorative than the ones in the Ashmolean Museum, but you can see it's a bigger instrument than the 4-course guitar that I featured in the last episode. It has a ribbed back, and it also has this beautiful sunken rose made out of parchment. There are a couple of very specific tuning systems for the instrument, and these help characterize the instrument into creating certain unique colors and harmonies. One of the effects that you can bring out with this instrument is called campanile, which literally means little bells. And it's a way of playing passages across the strings to create an overringing sound. Another musical characteristic of the Baroque guitar is its effectiveness when strummed, and a special notational system was devised to note it down called alfabeto. A source of this can be found in Floriano Pico's book, which was published in 1608, called Nuova Scelta di Sonate per la Chitarra, and he's very specific about rhythmical strokes and chord structures. Here's a little chord sequence called a Bergamasque ground to give you an idea of this sound world. Sophisticated repertoire for this instrument. Composers intermingled strumming with plucking and campanile styles, which created a blending of harmonies, rhythm, and melodies. This mixed notational style, as we know it, is very hard to replicate on the modern guitar. So it feels like music for the Baroque guitar is still very rare, still yet to be fully discovered. Hi Carlos, welcome to the Priory Early Music Series online.
Hello Liz, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I hear you've just moved house.
Yes, I just moved from one accommodation to the other.
Oh, and doing this, that's heroic. And you've got a really good lockdown haircut.
Yeah, a bit of change of style. Kind of bored, so I thought of.
It's fantastic. Carlos, it's great to have you on this series. You've travelled from Brazil, from Rio, to study at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire, and you started last September. Can you tell us a little bit about your musical experience in Brazil and your decision making? It's a big decision to make such a big journey to come study at Birmingham. Please tell us all about that.
Yeah, Liz. Well, actually, so I graduated in the U.S. From economics and finance and mathematics. And when I got back to Rio, I started to get more. Well, actually, I came back to São Paulo.
Wow.
And I started to get more interested in classical guitar after a bit. And when I got into the classical guitar, I started to find out the repertoire related to the Baroque period, especially Bach.
Yeah.
And as I started hearing that, I was like, I want to play this, and like it's played, I was very interested by it, and a bit not that interested anymore in the classical guitar. And that's how I ended up in the viol, because it's a very interesting instrument for me. It has repertoire from the Baroque and the Renaissance periods. And interestingly enough, my viol teacher, she studied here when it was still Berkeley Conservatoire.
Okay.
And I knew that she came here, and I applied, and I happened to get in, and it was great.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. That's wonderful. So you haven't been playing that long, have you, the viol? So you haven't actually been sort of in music fully that long. Only the last 3 years, is that right? How long, when did you take up the viol?
Yeah, I picked up the viol. If I remember correctly, it was November 2017.
Yeah, so it's not that long ago, is it really? And did you play in viol groups in Rio and São Paulo? Did you get playing with other groups? What's the scene like? What's the early music scene like over there?
Well, Brazil is a very big country, but regarding the early music scene, it's very small.
Yeah. Oh,
And
really? Yeah.
there's not many viol players. I mean, we actually have a association of the viol association in Brazil, which is very interesting. So we have yearly meetings where
Yeah.
we get around and play
Yeah.
and meet each other, which is nice. So I went to one of those meetings. There were other opportunities as well, and I would say festivals with
Yeah.
music that I could get together with other players and play too.
Yeah.
But it was mostly private lessons.
Right.
And my teacher lived in a nearby city close to Rio, and I actually had to go there, or she would come here, but it was worth it. It was very good.
So, as well as the viol, you have a passion for the guitar, and you're playing three pieces for us, sharing three pieces for us for this episode. Can you tell us a little bit about playing the instrument? Because again, you're very, very new to it, aren't you? I mean, we've had a couple of lessons together. First met you in October, I think it was, last October. So you've had a few lessons and you're getting to grips with the instrument. Can you tell us how you're finding playing this very delicate little instrument and the three pieces that you're sharing with us?
Yes, of course. Well, the Baroque guitar has a little bit of history as well because, well, I came from the classical guitar, and when I already was playing the viol, I was missing a bit of the pluck strings feel, and I happened to buy one in Brazil, but it's interesting because I had it for a short period. I bought it and then I sold it. It was a little period with it, and then when I came back here, there was the conservatory instrument, and I thought, well, maybe I can get back to it.
Yeah.
And it was very good because it led me to this incredible repertoire and this kind of music. As I started learning more about the instrument and the repertoire, I started to get very interested in it. And I think the instruments they complement each other,
Yeah.
They coexisted in periods and in repertoires. So it's good.
Yeah.
The pieces, they are, one is from an anonymous composer.
Yeah.
And the Baroque guitar has different tunings. It's a very specific subject. And I was using a fully re-entrant tuning in these pieces. And I think it's very interesting because the voices get very together when you use the re-entrant tuning. You don't have the bass notes.
No.
So especially when you strum, the voices are so close that it creates the idiom of the instrument, which is very interesting.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why this repertoire is vast for the Baroque guitar, but it's not very transferable, is it, to the classical guitar? So it's not very well known, and yet the music is stunning. But it's very, very specific. It's got battente style, it's got alphabetto tablature, it's got campanile effects, and you have to really sort of delve into these special manuscripts and get to grips with it, don't you? But it's huge. It's a huge amount of music for it, isn't
it? Yes, it's quite a huge repertoire, and it's interesting because it shows how the instrument was famous at the time. Yeah. And the issue with the classical guitar is that's one of the issues that the campaniles, for instance, it's hard to reproduce.
Yeah.
And the technique also it's a dual kind of thing because it's similar. You have the left hand, you have the right hand, you have to synchronize them. But on the right hand, the attack on the chords is different.
Yeah.
So you can get the sound. And on the left hand, there's the other issue. I think I remember us talking about it in one of the lessons. That you really have to be aware of the notes you're holding.
Yeah.
And depending on the chord, depending on the measure, to get the effect that you want. And it's also interesting.
Carlos, you're in your first year at Birmingham Conservatoire, and you've played. You did a concert for us at the Great Malvern Priory here. You played the viol, and you've got 3 more years at the Conservatoire. What are your plans for those years? What do you help to? What do you wish to gain from those 3 years? 3 years of study.
Well, I definitely want to delve into the the periods. It's so much. I don't even know how to narrow it down.
Yeah.
But it's. I mean, I would say that right now I'm very interested in 17th century repertoire, and I think it's very interesting because it's a period in which we're transitioning from the polyphonic Renaissance structure and getting into the tonal music.
Yeah.
But we're not quite in the 18th century with Rameau and his treatise, and so it's a very experimental, and a lot of things that are being done, and we have evidence that are being done. We see it a lot, and if it was being done, then it worked. It was something that they liked doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you see the theorbo, you see the Baroque lute, for instance. So I definitely want to study more this kind of repertoire. In the viol itself, for instance, you have the lyra viol repertoire, which is a repertoire which uses tablature. And so I definitely want to study a lot, use the conservatory resources, hopefully play a lot of concerts. I'm very interested in the research aspect of music. I mean, of course, I want to be a performer and play and be involved in that. But I mean, like I was saying, I mean, we were talking about the Baroque guitar recently, and I've been reading a lot about it. Not only about that, but about the viol and theory treatises.
Yeah.
And so I definitely consider doing more of academic challenges, I would say.
Yeah.
Consider maybe a postgraduate course. I mean, I'm not sure yet, but it's something that I have on my mind.
Yeah.
Just to look for something in that field.
That sounds fantastic. Carlos, it's been an absolute delight talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing with us your lovely Baroque guitar pieces. And we'll be seeing a lot of you, I'm sure, in the next few years. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Liz. And yes, hopefully.
Next time in our final episode for the Priory Early Music series, I'll be chatting to Charlotte Day. She's a third year studying at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire, a soprano, and she will be treating us to a little bit of Monteverdi. So until next time.